Hello everyone, good morning and welcome back to Sports Today. We bring you this video segment every morning to help you catch up on some things that you may have missed out on that took place in the world of sport whilst you were catching up on some all-important rest. Because let's face facts, whilst you need sleep, I need sleep, the entire world needs sleep. The world of sport is something that doesn't really ever get any rest, or in fact for that matter sleep. There's always something or the other going on, and it's very easy to miss out on certain things if you aren't attuned all of the time 24/7. Luckily for you, we here at Sports Today are in fact attuned 24/7 and all of the time, so we'll help you catch up on a few things that you might have missed out on whilst you were getting some rest. So without any further ado, let's get straight to it. And let's first talk about this man, Mohammad Shami. Now, Shami has in fact been a man revived ever since he helped India make it to the final of the ICC World Cup. Many see him now as a bowler who should be playing as and when he's fit. Unfortunately, picked up a bit of an injury, hasn't really played any cricket since. And now it does seem like, despite the fact that he himself has said that he should be available for the second part of the England tour, which is of course going to be starting this week. And don't forget, he's not going to be taking part of the first two tests. It seems very unlikely at this point. But even his participation in, let's say, games beyond that might be a little bit dodgy. Why am I saying that? Well, because whilst he was working in the NCA recently, getting on with his fitness work, now there has been a call taken, a collective call at that, for him to consult an expert in London. So it is very clear that Shami will most likely be flying out very soon. What we don't know is whether that means, say, there's been some sort of a setback, whether that means he won't be able to recover in time, what that means for when it is we can see a Mohammad Shami in action next. We don't really know. Details are, to put it politely, very scarce, but it does seem like this is a decision that has been taken in consultation with the NCA. In fact, it has been their doctor who's recommended that Shami go and look at an expert in London. So what this means really for his comeback, perhaps it could hasten things up. Perhaps it could mean another setback. We don't really know at this point. But it is unfortunate because, again, with Shami, you know what it is he brings to the table when he's at his fit best. But Shami for years has had a few major injury setbacks, and now age also isn't quite on his side. He is on the wrong side of 30, which for a pace bowler might actually be worse, considering you are so reliant on physical attributes to, actually get plenty of pace, bounce, all of that. One would hope that you can see Shami back in action, roaring fit. And speaking of roaring, Virat Kohli is someone who doesn't require much encouragement really to, let's say, be passionate and aggressive on the cricket field. In fact, recent times, especially going back to the ODI World Cup, his form has been pretty solid, and many would argue that come what may, his form in test cricket, even though he didn't really get 100 and all for a long time, was never really in doubt. However, Irfan Pathan, who works as an expert for a notable broadcast channel, has said that just maybe England need to be a little worried because, quite frankly, well, it seems like Kohli's aggressive side when it comes to how it is he behaves in the field, not necessarily his verbal jousting, but the body language, the confidence with which he carries himself, all of that seems to be back in spades. Maybe England need to be worried about that. And in a way, it does make sense, because if you look at who it is, who's the player that has been the target of the most verbal jousting from the English side so far. I mean, you have had an Ollie Robinson say like to play on Kohli's ego. You've had a Monty Panesar say that England should target Kohli and say that India are chokers. It has been Kohli. England know that getting Kohli would be massive to their chances in every single test to get a victory. So right now it does seem like, and if Pathan is right though, and he says the Kohli's aggressiveness is back, maybe it'll help him get a little better in that regard. But what we do know is that England have found their target, and one would hope that Kohli can fight fire with fire, give things back a little bit in kind in order to ensure that the battle stakes remain even. And one of the things, by the way, which a lot of people have been talking about when it comes to this India-England series is how well will the Bazball style of play translate from England, where, of course, conditions are very different, to India, where you're going to be getting very different conditions. Spin-friendly conditions to the extreme are what you're most likely going to be expecting in India for this particular series. So it just goes without saying that there are doubts, pretty, let's say, well-intentioned doubts at that too, at how well or badly the style may work. However, Gavaskar has actually mentioned something very interesting when he said that, look, if they play an aggressive style against India spinners, it might actually work out for them. Bazball as it is might work. Why has he said that? He said that because in white ball cricket, sometimes spinners will try and be more restrictive with their bowling, not try to give away as many runs, but they'll not necessarily always try and take wickets. He's saying in tests that's very different. You will bowl aggressive lines. So he's saying that if you're on a lottery pitch and you're facing aggressive batters who are trying to, let's say, deposit the ball into the stands, then you might, after getting hit a few times, choose to change your line, and that might further play into the advantage of the England batters. So Gavaskar is actually saying that, look, Bazball may actually work against India's spinners even if you are going to be in spin-friendly conditions. He didn't say it will work. He says that it does at least have a chance because they want to be aggressive and get the Indian spinners, who, by the way, have been praised a lot and rightfully so, on the back foot. Well, enough of cricket news. Now let's switch our attention to the world of football, and Liverpool were in fine form against the Bournemouth side, who, truth be told, looked second best throughout the night. The result being a 4-0 victory for Liverpool, and not just that, they go right back to the top of the Premier League table. Now, it says a lot that this is a Liverpool side who are currently without a Mohamed Salah, arguably their best goal scorer, best attacker. And of course, with Salah, there's bad news. He was playing for Egypt in the Africa Cup of Nations, but now he's come back to Liverpool. Now there's no surety because he picked up a hamstring injury. There's no surety as to whether or not he can go back. He's not expected to go back for the tournament before the semi stages at the earliest. So seems to be a pretty big one. Despite that, though, Liverpool shows that they can keep winning and potentially actually give City their first major title challenge since the 2019-20 season, when Liverpool, of course, did end up winning the league. More league talk, but this time, of course, in Spanish. La Liga, well, there's been a good title race recently, and Barcelona, unfortunately, haven't really been that close in that title race. There has been plenty of talks about pressure on their manager, Xavi Hernandez, who's, of course, a club legend. But what this victory has done, it's a victory which came courtesy of a Ferran Torres hat-trick. And it was a 4-2 victory that took place in La Liga. It took place against Real Betis. Torres got that hat-trick, and what was very, very important is that it put a little bit of pressure off, kept them within touching distance really of La Liga's top. They're not quite there yet because, of course, they're only third place right now. They have 44 points as of now, which means they're 8 points really off, the leaders. And we'll get to the leaders in just a bit in Girona. But, of course, they have been having a bit of a fairy tale season, and that run only got better recently. But with Barcelona, obviously, there's been a lot of pressure. There's been talks, let's say, about whether they need managerial changes, what the structure is. Of course, their finances is something that always dangles over their head. But wins like this will actually do a lot to ease the pressure. But enough about them, and let's talk about Girona. Now, Girona, well, it has been, as I said, a pretty, it's been an absolute fairy tale this particular season for them. One very simple reason, that this is a club who, despite actually investing maybe a fraction of the money that most of these players, most of these clubs do, well, they are actually right now at the top of La Liga. This is a club who only 3 seasons back got promoted into La Liga. They're now at the top, and thanks to this man right here, Dovbyk, who scored a hat-trick. 5-1 thrashing is what they inflicted on their sorry opponents, and they stay on top. Now, again, we have done videos on Girona in the past. Again, it's a bit of a fairy tale story if you're looking at it, because this is one club who for years were always second division, third division, fourth division. Now they're in the top division, and they are potentially heading for a title that is massive and would potentially be similar to what Leicester City did in the 2015-16 season, because that's just how big this particular victory will be. Speaking of things that are good, we're switching our focus now to the world of tennis and the Australian Open. Or unfortunately, Elina Svitolina, someone who many would have seen as one of the favorites for, let's say, the Australian Open, now that the likes of Swiatek have been knocked out. Unfortunately for her, well, she had to end up pulling out of, this particular Grand Slam. She had to retire from her game with a back injury, and unfortunately for her, that chance of potentially even making it to the first Grand Slam final, which itself would have been massive, is gone. Bit unfortunate, but that's just the way luck rolls sometimes. Your luck can sometimes be very, very cruel. But speaking of someone whose luck has not been cruel, doubtless you're wondering who this is. Well, it's a Ukrainian qualifier who's named Diana Yastremska. I'm sorry, I had to look at my phone to actually figure out the exact pronunciation, but Diana Yastremska, well, she has been on a tear, and she's now through to the quarterfinals, having beaten Victoria Azarenka. To say that's a big scalp would be something of an understatement, considering Azarenka has been right up there at the summit of the game. And Yastremska, well, she's qualified for the tournament. It's now through to the 5th round, the quarterfinals, and it has been a fairy tale so far. It'll be very interesting to see if the Ukrainian can keep things going from here. One thing is for sure, everyone loves a good underdog story, and you can be sure that a lot of people will in fact be rooting for her. But that's it from this edition of the Morning Wrap with Sports Today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate you joining us every single day. And if you enjoy our work, please don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Don't forget to download the AajTak app, and if you're already on the channel, well, go right ahead, check out some other videos we've done, and stay tuned. We've got plenty more coming your way. But now, though, from my side, it's goodbye.